Okay, so we are live. Welcome to this week's installment of Startup Weekly. This week I am joined by Sisa Lleses, who is the co-founder of Design Off the Boat, a borderless product design agency dedicated to building solutions for companies that address the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. So Sisa, very welcome to you and thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Amazing. Yeah, it's great to have you. So maybe can you start off by telling us a little bit about your own background and a little bit about how Design Off the Boat came to be?
Okay. Well, I'm currently based in Toronto, but I'm originally from the Philippines. So my background is really in design, multimedia design in particular. I used to work for advertising agencies like McCann and Dentsu, selling consumer products. And I learned a lot from there, but I also decided that, it wasn't the space for me, as I wasn't really try I wasn't there's a lot of limitations when you work for a big corporate agency like that, and the amount of exploration that you can do was something that I wasn't a fan of, but I did learn a lot and like a lot of great people there too. So I decided to go back to my university and try to work with the community there. I was really involved. I grew up in that area and I was really involved in the community there as well. So for a while, I was a research assistant for the dean of the School of Design and Arts, and eventually we decided that we would do something for the community with the school. At first, we were just doing, hip hop events, rap gigs, skateboarding events, graffiti events, and closing down the streets and trying to teach kids, skills to keep them distracted from, the urban chaos, the chaotic charm that is Manila, and. But we wanted to do more, so I worked with the dean and to have a concept of like a creative trade school, which eventually evolved into social impact business incubator, which is the hub of innovation for inclusion. And I really make that a part of my background story because that's where I learned how to do design thinking and design sprints and, have multidisciplinary experts in one room and try to have a framework to solve problems. And that really defined the rest of my life. So now I'm a design sprint facilitator, frequently mentor at social impact competitions and whatnot. And I always go back to that root. So when I came to Canada 5-6 years ago, I was looking for the same kind of problem set, but of course, like it's a very different context here. So then the forefront of change of social impact I was seeing was in product design, mobile apps, and that's kind of where I just like traced my my new path and trying to decide who I was going to be in this new city. And that's kind of how I ended up with my own agency. Well, I worked for other agencies as well. I worked for tech toy company, but the same corporate situation, but very creative people. And when I left, it was just it's time. I tried to do this 5 years ago. Maybe now I learned more. I've learned more. So.
Sure. So it sounds like the work that you did in Manila, first of all, I guess, set the foundations for some of the interest that you took in the area of design. And then coming to Canada meant that you kind of began to explore that further. But what was the real motivating factor, I guess, for you to kind of start your own design agency and really go out on your own then with Design Off the Boat?
Well, I always wanted to do it. When you're a young designer, you're like, I want to be that cool agency that I saw on YouTube today, and I want to be that guy. But then as we tried it before, I met my co-founder in high school, and then we knew, but it wasn't in high school when we started. It was more like after university, and then we were like, okay, let's try this here. And then we had all the talent we needed. We had the space, and it was just, it didn't work. We were winging it. We were winging it a lot. And then we went our own separate ways. We traveled, and then we reconnected again. And this time, we learned enough to to do it. But then the main factor of it was I wasn't happy like in my workplace. Two, I found that I was always I was always freelancing. I was always freelancing since I was 18. And even if I have a full-time job, I'd still freelance. And I always fell into this social impact design path, and I kept fighting it. And I had all these like talented people around me that were willing to work with me. It's just I've never had like that energy to split. And then one day, you know, I get hired out from my tech toy company to work full-time somewhere else. And then I got fired. Then I got fired 3 months later, but it was a good parting because they, you know, she said, oh, I feel like I'm putting you in a pretty little box. And that statement was like, you know, it wasn't just me thinking it. It was, you know, it was already like visible that I wanted to do something else that was of my creation. And I have this woman right here that's willing to, you know, go through this journey with me. And that's where it all started, really, is we made that decision to risk it. I mean, getting fired also.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you made the decision to go out on your own. You had a partner to go and do it with, and you just decided to make it a reality. So, that's amazing. I mean, what's the primary, I guess, service offering for Design Off the Boat? Like, what is it that you guys offer, and how do you pitch that to potential clients?
So what we are is a social impact focused startup studio, you know, we're a design studio. So we are, what we do is we conduct product design sprints that for social impact tech, and we build without code. So there's like 3 factors that are in there. One, our design sprints are specifically catered to the criteria of bringing social impact. As you know, like the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals give you that criteria, and we we customize our frameworks to make sure that that is what we achieve. Okay. And then we have the design sprint factor, where it just allows us to work smarter and harder. So there's low effort and higher impact. And the no code piece also just accelerates that time to impact, because one, we're removing the need for the technical barrier, which is the tens of thousands of dollars you need to get your idea out. And it just also speeds everything up even more. So, and we're particularly also, we have a soft spot for women founders, because we are an all-women team. And I feel like that's something that organically fell into place with us. Yeah, so we work with women founders and we're an all-women team. I think that's one of the big things that works for us, actually.
Amazing. So I'm just trying to picture what that looks like in a practical sense, because you've got these sustainable development goals and you align the processes and the methodologies that you use to help other businesses, I guess, build things in a more sustainable, but also in a more agile fashion, by the sounds of it. So does that mean like you're going into, I guess, large scale organizations as well as startups and helping them do that, or what does it look like on a practical level, I guess?
So what do you mean on a?
So are you going in to like organizations, and are you running workshops with them and showing them how to do these methodologies and processes, or are you kind of getting work outsourced to your team and developing that for them with your own internal team? I guess that's what I kind of mean, you know?
Okay, I guess it's kind of a pipeline system kind of question. So we operate like in different ways. So the first one is we do conduct design thinking sessions, purely workshops with startups. So they're able to book time with us, and we go through what their problem is and we take it apart. We identify what their place in that system is that they're trying to exist in. And we do that before we start any project, because we want to understand if we are solving the right problem in the first place, and what factors go into it, and you know, what do you have that we can work with and what you don't have. And then it usually builds off from that into a design sprint, or
Mm-hmm.
people can just go ahead and grab a design sprint from us. So it's basically, they can book us for a week, our whole team at their disposal for a week,
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to solving this particular problem. What they leave after with that week is, a better understanding of their problem, a prototype, a working prototype, not just your click-through static prototype. This is how no-code tools really help us, is we're able to test actual demos. Let's say if you're a startup and you were going to pitch to an investor,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going in there saying, oh, we did a survey and 100 people said yes, they would buy it. They said that to your face,
Mm-hmm.
but they wouldn't actually take out their credit card and buy things from the app store, make purchases off your site.
Sure.
And that's the value you get out of that whole week. The other way we operate is we work with programs like hackathons, boot camps, and all that, and we come in and bring a webinar, which are
Mm-hmm.
workshops, which we talk about that through those three things: the social impact, the design thinking, design space, and no code. And we offer office hours. We go to deep dives with like each team and try to identify what the specific challenge is, and we match them with experts from our team or experts in our community, and to help tackle that specific challenge. So there's a lot of co-creation, as well as while we're co-creating with you, we also teach you how to do it. So you won't be so codependent on us as well. That's the goal is we want to create more founders in the social impact space, and we want to empower people with those skills, besides build their really cool ideas with them.
Yeah, I think that's it's interesting to see like the collaborative approach that you take, because I think like I came from a consulting background as well, and you're going in to help other organizations with digital transformation and so on. And I think it's always great when you have a client who is taking you on as like part of their team, and really working hand in hand with you on a project, rather than just seeing you as a vendor who's there to do a job, So it very much sounds like you're going in, not, I wouldn't say hand holding, but you're working in a very collaborative way to help people attack their problems in a way that's aligned with these sustainable goals.
Definitely, because what that benefits us as a team is we're able to eliminate the blind spots that we have, because we're not at the front line. We're not, trying to sell this thing. We're not doing the demos. We're just building the structure in the background. But we need all of that information, and being involved in the team is you have this organic source of data about what the users, the business goals, and our role is also to centralize all of that so we can use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So how old are you? And then how, like the business, I guess. And then my kind of lead on question from that is what things have you found have worked for you with regards to business development for yourselves over the past year or years that you've been operating?
So as Design Off the Boat, officially we started in 2018, the summer of 2018. But the people involved in Design Off the Boat, we've been working together pragmatically, like
sure.
But we've never like, okay, let's do it. Let's just go sink in. Let's build this whole robot. Sorry, what was the next part of the question?
And I guess what I'm wondering in light of that is, what are some of the things that you found helpful for yourselves with regards to growth? And I mean, like we've got entrepreneurs in our community, and I guess one of the biggest challenges for people, especially in the early stage of starting a business, whether you're doing product or service offerings, is lead generation and getting your initial customers and finding those first clients. So I guess in light of that, what do you see working for you guys right now on that front? And how have you approached that, I guess, over the past couple of years?
I think the main difference of when we first tried to start it in the Philippines versus being here is, when we were trying to start it back then, we tried to do everything. This is like something agencies tend to fall into, is we want to do the marketing, the development, the design, the branding, like all this, like all of it. And the thing is, I hated doing a lot of that stuff, and making the decision to decide that, okay, we're not going to serve this whole buffet, but we can be this main dish that serves this dish that's like we're really, really good at making. That's what changed it for us, is deciding what do we really want to put our energy to. For me, I hated, doing accounting, for example, right? So there's the thing is, even if I hate doing that, there's someone out there that loves doing that and is really, really good at it and is willing to work with you and believes in the same things you do. So that, and I think that's like applicable across like situations. For me, I just really, really want to do the Post-its part, the workshop, shuffling the Post-its and breaking down ideas, like for different people. I don't want to be stuck to one problem set that I'm going to solve for the next 5 years. I want to see what people are up to, and being aware of that, being self-aware, and asking the people that I work with to be aware of what they want to and how they want to shape what we're working on. That really changed a lot. And we were able to, because we identified who we are, we were also able to find the people that aligned with that as well.
Amazing. Yeah, it's such a good point, because I mean, there is an element of when you're starting out that there's so many different areas of the business that you need to try cover. And I think for some startups, that's a necessity, especially if you have a small team. But once the opportunity comes up to delegate, to allow you to focus on what you're really good at, I think the sooner you can get to that, the better. And it sounds like you've done a good job of that.
It took a while.
Pardon? Yeah. Well, especially more recently, but yeah, I think that's the real goal for any startup, to try and get to that position where they can really focus on what they do best. Amazing. So can you maybe speak to some of the larger trends that you see in the industry at the moment for maybe startups and scale-ups who want to work with design shops like yours? And how are you capitalizing on some of those trends? So like, what problems do they see that they're coming to someone like you with, and then how are you kind of positioning yourself to capitalize on what's going on right now, I guess?
Well, a lot of our clients come to us, although we teach step one, right? We try to talk to clients that are like in the idea phase, like potential clients. A lot of our regular clients, they came to us at a point where they're already like depleted with how their workflow has been going. They've been probably at this for like a year or two, and it's not really working out for them. And they've been burned enough that they're willing to try new ways of thinking, right?
Yeah,
and that's where explaining design thinking and design sprints is easier for us to show them the value of that. It's easy for them to see the value of that because they're exhausted. They know that they have bottlenecks, and not just one, like in several places. And when you come in and you say, okay, let's take that apart for you and let's see how we can unravel this and make it work for you, make your problems work for you instead of against you. That's, I think, where creative problem solving starts to have this appeal. And then you bring in the benefits of rapid prototyping and knowing that you can build this without any technical investment. Well, not purely without, but with significantly less, and still achieve the learning that you need. That just lights their eyes up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it comes back to what we spoke about a minute ago, where when you've so many things to do and so many tasks to try and fulfill at an early stage, you can't focus your energy on those more creative processes. And I think that's oftentimes where, especially larger organizations, begin to lose out when they're focusing on putting policies in place and blue tape, and then they lose that creative streak. And I think there's such an opportunity for people like you to come in to really ignite that fire again of that creative component for small, medium, or even large scale companies.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of, when you start a new company, you have that like the thrill of the hunt, you have like that, I'm going to do everything type thing. And being in a sprint workshop, it brings all that back, being bootstrapping things, like creating things with your own hands. I think that's also the fun of it too. For me as a facilitator, that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So we spoke about it briefly already, but the Sustainable Development Goals are, well, they very much seem to be a large part of your operating thesis and something that you align all of your work with. So I guess, how do you see technology and the online space being an enabling force, I guess, for change for those goals? And then obviously so much of the work that you do and a lot of us do now is within the tech space, but how do you see that maybe translating to the real world or like the physical world as well, you know?
Well, I think this year we've seen, tech really come through at, times of need, like during crisis, uprising, protests and all that. Like tech played a big part in bringing all this together.
Mm-hmm.
And that just accelerated, sorry, that just accelerated the time that it takes to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So a lot of social innovation is actually born out of a sense of urgency. Like we need this part of the system is broken and we need a fix now. And, tech, and especially having all these new tools and all these people just like willing to share what they learn freely, that's a big piece. Also, it provides, economic enablement for a lot of people, especially in areas that need it the most. Also, coming from the Philippines, I see how the SDGs are really necessary. We get that buffet of issues to deal with. So and it's played a really significant role in creating jobs. We're the BPO capital as well. Like alongside like India. So a lot of like our role in that global ecosystem is powered by tech as well. So that's yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. I think like, I mean, I've been involved in technology as well for the past number of years, and most of my work has been in it. And I think sometimes sometimes you get your head in the sand a bit and you wonder, okay, how is all this tech actually helping sometimes in a real world sense? And you see things that are going on in the world. But I think with what's gone on this year in particular, like you mentioned, it's been great to see some of the people and some of the companies in the technology space really stand up and showcase how we can leverage technology to help one another and to, I guess, really come together, as a people and help to move things forward and actually get people into action and facilitate that change. So yeah, it's been great to see.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there, though, that we have to be mindful of as well. Although we're a product design agency and, we make money off making apps, we always try to let people reflect on whether an app is a solution or not. Are we just creating Band-Aid solutions for the actual gap? And, if you have too many Band-Aid solutions on the system, it breaks. It breaks. One Band-Aid is going to break the rest, or something is going to evolve and the rest of the Band-Aids aren't going to be able to keep up. So are we really addressing the root gap? And I think that is what the SDGs really give us a framework for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. So in light of that, again, with your own work that you're doing, I guess, how are you thinking about scaling and growing your own offerings? And I know with service providers, it can often be a matter of doing the same thing with a lot, putting the same frameworks in place with a lot of different clients. And I guess I'm just interested to know how you think about approaching scaling, whether you're thinking of building out productized services or like, what's kind of your approach to growing and scaling yourself?
Well, we do encounter that particular problem because we do work in a startup space, we're in the tech space. So we often get recruiters coming to us saying, hey, come to our accelerator. We think you'd be a good fit. Mm-hmm. And to me, I'm like, no, we don't actually have our own product. We just build everybody else's products. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, okay, maybe not. Because it's hard to scale a service agency. But what we do is, we love to take our blockers and turn them to things that could work for us. Is when those recruiters come, we're like, okay, but then we could actually help your startups. This is, we have, no code, we have the sprints, we have processes that have worked really well for us. Can we be a service partner? But of course we have to identify whether it is a good fit. We ask them what their problems and challenges are as well. So partnerships, I think, is what's really going to help us scale. Also having an actual sales structure. A lot of people that, are interested in just the creative part or trying to jump to the doing the service part of it, forget to sell their product and forget to learn how to sell it to their specific target. And I'm guilty of that. That's something I've overlooked for a while. And it's not until, I listened to advice and actually sought out and acknowledged what I didn't know for me to actually take that into something that I could wield myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely one of the biggest challenges, I think, for service agencies and the service model is trying to get in place those structures that help you scale, because some of the processes are repeatable with businesses and startups. But again, every startup is going to be slightly different, and there's going to be a slightly different approach for you each time you take on a new client. But it's interesting to hear that, strategic partnerships and really nailing that selling is part of what you're doing, because even me as well, the sales component doesn't actually come very naturally to me either, and I think it's something that you can't overlook as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. You just have to get to terms with the fact that you're gonna have to do this and continue to work on it.
Yeah, I call it the baby, right? You just want to build your baby. It's also, the reasons why startups, new startups, young founders, they would be like, no, this is my baby. I'm not going to talk about it. No one can know about my idea. But that's the worst way to learn about, how to sell your service, how to, to find the right people for it, to build it and work and buy it. So the baby syndrome is real.
Absolutely. So maybe can you shed some light on your own entrepreneurial journey, and what do you love most about what it is that you do?
This is always a hard question because I love the process. It might be like a generic answer, but the process is where I really live. I like finding out ways I can improve the processes. I think this is why I wasn't happy with being in a corporate setup, because I would constantly try to introduce, new tools that would streamline the work, or just, if we change this one way that we're doing this, if we change the way we're asking the question, if we change the way we're working, it could really significantly improve, one, morale, and two, our output. But then, you have this bureaucracy and the hierarchies that kind of bog you down. So that was really a deterrent for me to stay in that kind of space. But as an entrepreneur myself, I've always been in the design space. But then it's been different kinds of design. I wanted to be a music video director, and then I became a graphic designer. Ironically, I actually failed a lot of my tech coding classes in university.
Okay.
I sucked at it. So, when I met my professor here and when she came to visit Canada, I was like, would you ever have thought that I would have my own agency for product design? She was like, no, to be honest, no, not really. So a lot of it is also, one thing I learned on my entrepreneurial journey is it's good to be nice, but you also can't be so nice that you've given too much of yourself elsewhere. We like to help entrepreneurs. I like to help other people. But there's a balance. There's always, you need to have your boundaries of how much you can help without depleting from yourself.
For sure.
And that helped me build a criteria of what kind of founders, entrepreneurs, clients that I want to have and I want to work with that respect those boundaries and, have the same core values that I do.
Absolutely. So in light of the fact that we've got a community of other builders and entrepreneurs with Startup Sanctuary, I guess what what would your number one piece of advice be for anyone who's starting a business or wants to start that process, you know, from your own experience, maybe with Design Off the Boat and elsewhere? What's your go-to piece of advice for someone who wants to start that journey?
Well, my go-to piece of advice would be the buffet metaphor. Or like, sorry, I gotta do this now.
Yeah, go for it. No worries at all. Take your time. Take your time.
Okay, it's working.
Amazing. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting because, like, it's not until you actually almost start the process that you begin to learn so many things that you could do differently. And there's always an element of, yes, you can learn from others, but there's definitely some things you just have to try yourself and sometimes learn the hard way. So
Yeah.
you don't know the unknowns until you begin. But yeah, I'm definitely keen to hear what you think, or what's your best piece.
My go-to advice is definitely, know what you're really good at and stick to that, and find the other people that are good at what you're not good at and work with them. But recently I also learned that like as an agency, so I've always wanted an agency, so I was doing the whole agency thing from the get-go, like the whole thing. And I know other people do it the other way, where they build their personal brand and then build that community and then build the agency or the company and all that. I feel like that's something that I missed out on, is having my own identity within what I'm trying to build. It's like when you're in a relationship, you shouldn't, forget yourself and forget who you are. And I feel like that's something that that's what's next for me, is defining myself bit outside of Design Off the Boat, while I'm working. They work together, they go hand in hand, but they're different people, they're different entities. So that's something that I wish I knew a while back, but if I would have learned like other things. Anyway,
for sure.
Yeah, so don't lose yourself in what you're trying to build, because it's reciprocal anyway. I also learned that I shouldn't be putting all the things that I want to happen in one boat, like Design Off the Boat. I tried to put too much cargo on it that I couldn't, not everyone in my team was able to relate to it. Yeah. So I found that a lot of the work on like the knowledge end or of a particular thing fell on me, and it also confuses everybody. Like everyone spread out too thin mentally, even if not like for actual tasks. So you have to learn what you're good at, but also learn where to keep it, where to place it, and where it'll work best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely a process of refinement to work towards that. And yeah, I think it's a path that everyone has to kind of forge for themselves and try to understand. And for me as well, like you just don't know some of the unknowns until you really start the process. So yeah, that's great advice. So finally, Sisa, just to wrap things up, I guess, what's next for Design Off the Boat, and what's on the agenda in the immediate future?
Well, for us, in the immediate future, we're actually doing a webinar workshop at Cooperathon. So it's the largest open innovation challenge in the world, but I'm doing it for the Canada leg. I'm doing it for the Canadian leg, and that's happening in October. Excited. I think right now there are like 900 people signed up, but I think there's going to be 2,000 participants. So very scary, but I'm trying to bring them the magic of no-code tools and design thinking. But for Design Off the Boat, one is really sifting through that cargo that I put on it. So Design Off the Boat, we're an all-women team, and we're going to focus on building things for women founders. That's what our route was. We had a little feature, if you have feature creep, that we had service creep. So so that is, and for me as my own brand, like I'm trying to see what that creature is going to be, and really focus on the design strategy aspect of it. So, and that's where I'm happiest. And I think it's a bit of a personal journey for me as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, best of luck with it all, and best of luck with everything in the immediate and long-term future. And if people want to learn more about you and Design Off the Boat, they can check out designofftheboat.com. And again, Sisa, thank you very much for joining for this week's Startup Weekly, and I wish you the very best of luck. Thank
you so much for having me, and I'll see you in the Startup Sanctuary community.
Amazing. Thank you for joining. Cheers. See you later, Sisa. Bye-bye.